Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Sunday night hanging, well, right here on Sundays. You're new, welcome, and please hit the subscribe button. If you're back, coming back, welcome back, because that's how that works. Going to be a fun one tonight, folks. We're talking gear of all kinds of flavors. I got my good friend Dylan from Flipside Music, chief bottle washer over there. That's one step below the head honcho.
Oh, yeah.
That's basically it. Grand Poobah, if you will.
Yes. Working my way to like Supreme Poobah, I guess.
Right. We already got a bunch of people in here. Wow. We got Devin.
I forgot I need to pull up the chat on the other side. Give me one second.
Wait. All right. Ferd Burfle's here. Devin's here. Hit Metal Works. I thought that was Bozique. I missed your first comment. I'm like, Bozique. That's got to be... Great to see you. D-Mac is here. Mark Taft. Gord Brooks. Hello from Montreal. What's up? I'm like, I don't know, 3 hours up the road to the west. There's Charles 75N. Patrick Trite. Who else? Lawrence Cash. Got Gary. Fucking believable. Paul McNary and all the cats. They're listening. They're almost deep in a project. Dastardly Dave is here. Awesome. Symmetry, BC Rich 581, Rob Baker, good to see you. Mr. Anderson 59, Bonkers, Marcia Murray. It's Josh Tamberg, early for once. I don't know how you did. NyQuil to the kid tonight. How'd you end up early? I don't understand. Ben Allmark's here.
Yeah, you got a fair turnout tonight.
Yeah. Herb at Fireside Studios. Oh, RJ the Mad One, JP Page 2. Holy crap! Yeah, Billy Baloney, Zach Pack was the first one. Nice. Terry's 3Gs, of course. Moderator to the stars. Jorgen Becker. There's a new name. Jorgen. I've never had a Jorgen in my chat. Welcome. You're the first. Yo, awesome. Presley California Customs. Seth out there, co-host of Guitar Safari along with Charles 75N. Squire Telecasters here. Stephen Douglas. What's up, Doc? Nice. So I was going to say before we go any further, I've been digging the format as of late, you doing the What the Facts, because, doing a Q&A show myself, I know it can get a little thin at times for the cues.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, so, especially if it's the usual crowd, unless like something particular happened in the greater guitar world, it can be kind of hard to come up with subjects sometimes. But you never know, though, too, because certain things can obviously just spark Ike and I into a stream of consciousness.
Well, there is that. But yeah, like doing the live demoing or twisting knobs on pedals each week, I'm digging it. I'm not going to lie. And
yeah, it's pretty fun, and honestly, it's been fun for us just because we don't always know, exactly how it's going to turn out. Because like even, this most recent one, the old Blood Noise stuff, I really just grabbed, and it's like a lot of that ended up being a lot more fun than if I had done it with any like purpose,
Right. Yeah, because things can get real weird real fast.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and it's fun too because, honestly, like, especially as the business has progressed, like Ike doesn't really get to do a lot of that much anymore. So it's kind of nice that, at least every week we get to kind of mess around with some stuff and just have some fun with the gear, because it is a good reminder of obviously why we're doing everything, because, the business can get a little, tense at times just because we're always trying to kind of balance everything, especially with the move. It's been, a lot less playtime in terms of playing gear. So it's still fun to do the stream. It kind of keeps us a little more sane, I hope.
Right. Exactly. Allows you to let off some steam during the work week, which is nice.
Yeah, and it's honestly a nice break, like in the middle of the day. It's kind of, especially now, because it's been great that we can just, go into the side room now and like doesn't interfere with business, and then I can kind of hop right back on the floor once we're done. So it's been really good.
Unlike previous shows, like, oh, there's the door. You both you look up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and like now every once in a while we'll have like a momentary interruption, because like the room we're doing it in now eventually is going to be kind of bookended with guitars and amps, and that's where like most of the nicer stuff's going to live. And then towards like the back part of the room is going to be where the stage and kind of set up for the streams and stuff. All that's going to get kind of shifted over there. So once we do that, it'll be kind of funny because I know there will be times where like the guys will have to, you know, pop in to grab a guitar, an amp, or whatever it might be. But at least people know it's live, obviously, when it, you know, anything could happen.
Right. That unbelievable as a question
can get, because sometimes every once in a while too, like with where we're at now, it was really funny the other day. I think it was one of Ike's buddies from New York that had come out, and we didn't realize it, so he had like kind of cut into the office, which like there's 2 doors into the office now, but one of them spills into the middle room, and so it was pretty funny because we're in the middle of the stream, and then all of a sudden, you know, it's like this head just kind of pops out from the doorway. So it is kind of funny now that we're in there, and especially with you know, guitar, because like sometimes now we have like, you know, way more stuff going on in terms of noise and chatter and all kinds of stuff. So
oh yeah,
because it literally used to be just Ike and I kind of, you know, fiddling around in that big empty building essentially.
Right.
So yeah,
it's unbelievable. Thoughts on the Schecter Sunset Triad? Why? Just why?
Honestly, I'll have to Google that one real quick. Let me see.
Same.
Most of the time, if you have to ask why, then it's pretty bad. But oh, the 7-string? Or no, they got 6 strings too. Okay. I mean, it looks pretty standard.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, nothing too wild about it.
In the triple pickup thing, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that is a little weird, but
Schecter's always been a little weird. Easy Rich asks, is the new location everything that you're hoping for, or sometime down the road do you see a need for more space potentially?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was kind of a funny thing. Like when we first thought we would be getting in there, it was pretty appropriate to what we had. But like as we kind of kept going, like it's not like full. I mean, we're not like, you know, it's not like overflowing yet or anything. But yeah, we're definitely gonna probably need more space down the road. If anything, we're kind of hoping there's kind of a spot next to us that was kind of just an old building that's not really operational anymore, and so we're kind of hoping if the owner at any point, you know, this would be down the road, but if they ever wanted to, Ike was kind of thinking we would pick that up and then maybe put like, maybe honestly we would put like all the YouTube stuff and even like the stage area over there, and then we would also have like a lockout rehearsal room space over there, and then we would kind of open up because right now like the back, and it's basically, it's not half the building, but it's probably about 30% of the building is warehouse that we're currently in. So if anything, that's going to be where we would need, you know, the most expansion. So if we had to have like a warehouse / rehearsal space, that could end up working pretty good. So, but yeah, right now, honestly, yeah, it's been really great. Like it's a way better vibe. I mean, I know obviously a lot of the, you know, folks in the chat haven't been to the shop necessarily, but like where we were before was sort of, it was like right off of Broadway, which is one of our main streets in Denver, but we were also kind of sandwiched in between this little industrial part of town. So sometimes it was kind of, I don't know, wasn't like unpleasant or anything. It just wasn't always like the best, especially like if there were cement trucks, you know, they would literally like if the cement trucks ended up like locking up, you'd every once in a while you'd hear just like a small stick of dynamite go off, like just kind of back behind us. So like stuff like that we don't deal with anymore. Like we're right next to the river, which is pretty cool. So I can actually walk Ziggy now, and it's not, you know, it's not just a weird cement mess. So but yeah, in terms of the building too, the layout's way better, and like customers are having a lot more fun with it because we kept the layout pretty much the same. But like it's way more efficient than what we had, and we have way more space, and especially having that middle room, like I can't wait till we're settled enough to actually start using that for what we want to do, because nobody in Denver does any clinics anymore, and that's like the main thing I really still want to get us doing, because like between clinics, and we were even thinking because so Chuck that does like the Dynox pedals, when I did that Gene Hackman stream, yeah, so he will be working with us at some point in the shop, and he'll be doing like amp and pedal repair. We're also kind of hoping he'll do like amp and pedal building classes at some point too. So we're hoping to do a lot more things than just use it for like a demo area,
Sure. What's up, cousin Doug? Great seeing you earlier today. You came by for a visit, brought me some cool swag from North Carolina. Steve Anderson, what's up, buddy? Good to see you. And yes, I'm wearing the same shirt I was wearing earlier today. Of course.
I was going to say, hopefully at some point, whenever you can make it down here, we'll be pretty well settled. But yeah, I was going to say, hopefully you can see it. Because like I said, it's definitely a lot better than what we had before. I mean, what we had served us well, but like where we're at is finally like, we finally got to do something the way we wanted to instead of just having to make do. So
right. I totally get it. See, everyone's talking about triple coil pickups in the chat. I get it. Presley's changing strings in between lifestyle choices. That's fine. Sup, Speaker? Beesier says, I have 3 of these shirts. I swapped them in and out. Yep. I have a variety of Def Leppard shirts. They're all the same, though, so you never know.
Yeah, you got to have like a casual and then got a fine dining Def Leppard shirt. And then.
Oh, sorry. That's the one that doesn't have any stains.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see. Herb's asking cousin Doug what transpired in Beckley, West Virginia. Oh, that's going to trigger some trauma. Just going to say. We'll see if he actually says anything about it, but probably not. Right. So I got a kick out of you and Ike. You're doing the guitar barbecue coming up soon, next weekend, because basically during the move you realize you have a lot of crap that you need to get rid of.
Yeah, we have a lot of crap, and then honestly we have it's like it wasn't honestly the move was not really that brutal, but it's kind of just a good excuse to kind of move some of that stuff along too, because like the move was good at kind of pointing out what we've had for too long, so that's a good part of it too. So
Billy Baloney says he was at a funeral once and a guy came in a Motley Crue t-shirt. That's classy at a funeral.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on, if it was appreciated by the deceased, right. I guess.
One hopes. Otherwise, I'm thinking someone just made bail in time for the funeral.
Yeah, or that was maybe the nicest, cleanest shirt they had that day. That was like they were trying, but that was about all they could muster that particular day.
It's what I had that was clean. I get it. So is any gear lately that's because you've been going through some the newer release pedals, any stuff that's caught your eye that you're like, ooh, this might have to come home and go on the board?
Well, yeah, my most recent, which I think maybe we talked about at one point, but yeah, the LVX from Maris has kind of been the most recent purchase I've had, but it's also honestly like in terms of one pedal, it's probably the one pedal that's kind of kept me engaged the most, if that makes sense, because it's one of those pedals like if you just have a random idea or a random sound, like you can usually find a way to make it on that. And so it's kind of a fun pedal to just really explore with, like especially if you have a particular thing that you're chasing. It's also honestly though, because I don't really feel like I normally have ADD, but like sometimes I do kind of have sonic ADD. So I feel like that pedal definitely, if you're not like really trying to stay focused, you can end up on, a random side quest and not even know it. So
I get it.
That and we'll see late, like today actually, we'll see if he ends up bringing it by. So are you familiar with like SIB Electronics at all?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that company, I always really loved a lot of their stuff, but particularly like the Mr. Echo, the Echo Drive, and like any iteration they've done of that. And so we had a customer that might end up bringing by like a good part of his collection because he's kind of essentially downsizing and doing the whole digital rig thing. So, but he had like a pretty nice. It looked like it was pretty clean echo drive. So that one I might not be able to pass up because it's one of those ones where like somebody comes in and shows you a picture of what they have and like you can't act too excited because you don't want to like spoil the deal down the road.
Oh
yeah. But on the inside it was one of those ones because that one for me is kind of a holy grail pedal. Like I've always kind of told the dudes like if one ever came through, that one was like, save it for me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I get it. Yeah, see, Cousin Doug's just being a jerk now. He's like, that was a cool pedal you had on the table today. Yeah, ask me about it again September 13th. That's all I can say.
Oh, you got an early teaser or something?
Yeah.
Nice.
From our friendly neighborhood pedal builder out of Arizona.
Nice.
I think we have an Ike sighting in the chat. Other than that, or you're multitasking.
Oh, yeah, there he is.
What's up, Mom?
He finally went four-wheeling today, so I'm very proud of Ike today.
Yay.
Yeah, he finally broke in his Jeep, so yeah.
Nice. Gary asks, he says, question for Dylan. I check their website for used guitars once in a while. Do you consider offers or are prices set in stone?
We do consider offers, and honestly, especially if you're checking it through the website, kind of contacting us directly, like via the website, not via Reverb or anything, is definitely the better way because we can usually, work things a lot better without having to deal with the reverb fees and stuff. So we always appreciate it if people kind of go to the website or contact us directly. But yeah, if it's something specific, and I mean, honestly, especially with what's coming up with the Guitar Barbecue, we're kind of running sales on, like Ike said, pretty much everything to a point except for consignment.
Right.
But if there's anything in particular that somebody's after, especially right now, like I said, we are definitely working deals. So feel free to either email us or give us a call whenever we're in there because we can definitely, talk that stuff more specifically if reverb's not involved. So
I was checking the website when it was mentioned on Thursday. And for those who don't know, check out the Flipside Music YouTube channel. Terry's been putting links in the chat. And there's a link down below. Ike and Dylan, they go live once a week, as I say, live Q&A. And they do pedal rundowns, guitars. You don't know. It could be anything. It could be anything that's in the store.
Now that we're getting a little more settled, I'm hoping to start. I don't know what day. Probably Saturday evenings, but I'm hoping to just kind of do more, streams, but kind of honestly more open-ended to where, like, if somebody wants me to just go grab something off the shelf, it'll be kind of that kind of a show. So we'll see. We're hoping to do more. I know, like, Ike's going to start doing his acoustic stuff here at some point, too. So we're just, it's weird, especially with the move. It's one of those things. First 2 weeks, we made, like, a ton of progress. And then, like, now it's kind of hard fought for every little bit we're getting now.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was the one advantage of doing the show at the old location when you were out in the showroom because we're like, hey, over your left shoulder, grab that green Reverend, show. You're like, all right, sure.
Yes. Well, and that's kind of like, it's funny because Ike mentions that a lot because it was pretty nice. And a lot of people would see things that they might not necessarily know about or see, any other way. And so it was kind of fun. So I think he kind of wants to get back to doing some of that where we, if it was something we squeeze in the morning or something, we could probably, because eventually we're going to have more of a mobile setup. So we're kind of hoping to do stuff up in the showroom occasionally too. So
nice.
Well, that, and then like I said, we're, that one area we'll be in is going to have a ton of gear in it. Like right now, I think we already have probably about at least 30 guitars and, 15 to 20 amps in that room. And that's just on one side. So once we double up, there'll be a lot of stuff to look at in there.
Sure. Yep. Mix it up each week. Why not?
Yeah.
I get it.
Well, yeah. And like I said, honestly, we like the stuff I feel like we ever try to plan doesn't really, it's not that it doesn't work. It just doesn't always work as well as some of the stuff that we don't plan. So it's kind of one of those things, like sometimes when we just stick to, I guess maybe we're subconsciously in the habit of always just sliding in and trying to make shit work. But that is one of those things that we always run into where like if we grab some random pedal, we'll have more fun doing that than we would if we like purposefully plan like, hey, this is coming out and we're going to specifically try to cover this.
What's up, Brian Hall? Dan, New Jersey's in here. Wow, we got 60 people watching. Hit that like, folks. Helps algorithms and stuff. I don't know. The march to 5,000. That's what we're trying to do here. Yeah. Got any questions? Tag either one of us.
Yeah. I think Ferg somewhere up there was asking about the my Les Paul behind me. That guy's actually just a little Les Paul special, but yeah, it's kind of funny. He was remarking on me being like a single coil guy. So the Strat that I actually have that I use in most of the videos is it's essentially one single coil sandwich between two humbuckers. So
right.
So yeah, that one, it's interesting though, because like audibly you can still usually tell it's a Strat. It just has a little more heft behind it than normal.
That guitar does not check any boxes for me, Dylan. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, I hate mini humbuckers. I hate them in Strats. And then I'm not into the low tuning. And then you plug it in. I'm like, damn it, that thing sounds awesome.
Yeah, no,
like, I really want to hate that guitar, but it does the thing. It does it very well.
Well, it's funny because like it took, honestly, the process with that guitar was like about a year and a half before I finally got it doing what I wanted it to do. Because it was kind of an odd thing when we ended up getting it, but like the pickups that were in it were just way too dark, and just single coils obviously were just not quite cutting it for what I was trying to do. And so I had a friend end up giving me those Billy Gibbons, what were they, like the Red Devil pickups or something like that, I think is the set it was called. But apparently they're known for being like ridiculously bright. And so with the lower tuning, it ended up being like the exact thing to kind of round out that guitar. Right. But it is funny because I actually love it because everybody in town, especially in Denver, because like we have a pretty healthy, doom metal scene and just heavier, heavy metal scene here. And so everybody here is always kind of gravitating towards a lot of the same stuff. Like they're all playing like green or orange amps. They're all playing, or matte amps. They're all playing, a lot of Dunables or almost exclusively, double humbucker guitars. And so the Strat's just one of those ones where, like, I don't know, I like it because, like you said, it doesn't really add up. It doesn't make any sense, but somehow it still sounds good.
Yeah, I'm like, there's so many wrongs with it, but it works out. I'm like, I don't understand it, but hey, yeah, I wouldn't change a thing. Thanks again, Terry, for putting links in the chat. It's appreciated. So yes, folks, always check out the website. There's always things happening, changing. New look. I'm like, obviously it'd been a while because I was like, oh, the website's revamped. I'm like, I dig this. What's up, Great Vanzini?
Yeah, I honestly need to update it again. We kind of did a little bit when we first moved, and then I've haven't really done a lot yet. But one thing that is nice, like we do try to keep like all the new arrivals right at the top. So usually that at least gives people something new to look at. If it's been like, honestly, we have stuff going up almost daily, but it at least gives people some idea of kind of what's rolling through.
Sure. Yeah, and then you click by brand, and then it's all the brands, especially for the pedals. It's all the brands.
Well, we're trying. It's one of those things like, we're kind of having to do like we were having to do more of a Survivor Island kind of thing where, a brand would occasionally get voted off, and we still are to a point. But now that we're in the new space, it's been really cool because like we're able to finally spread out and actually have all the pedals out where you can really see them, and they're not all just crammed together and kind of overlapping. Right. So, because honestly, like the new wall, I don't know. I think there's maybe some decent photos of it, but the new pedal wall is really, it's cool. I mean, it's basically 25 feet of just pedals.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's up, Laz? Yeah, you got to be pushing 1,200 pedals.
Yeah, I mean, at least, it ranges too, because like the used stuff, especially the last 2 months, like we've had a incredible influx of used pedals. So like, sometimes we'll dwindle down to like 100 to like 125 used pedals, but then we'll get, a huge swath of them back in. So,
sure.
All of a sudden we'll have, in a couple weeks we can get 60 to 100 more that'll end up showing up, and then by the time the month's over we're back up into the 253 range on the used side. So just kind of varies. But
Terry found a very cool Marshall Origin 20 in white Tolex.
Yes, actually it is a really cool one, and it's pretty much pristine. The guy got it, and it was kind of funny. He was apparently very worried about staining it, so, or like getting, basically getting it dirty. So he's
Sure.
like, he essentially realized he kind of made a mistake going with the white, and it is really cool though. Like it looks very sharp. Not normally like a white Tolex guy, but it's one of those things that kind of works, like a Bizarro Universe version of a Marshall, but it works.
D-Mac mentions he saw it as well. Nice.
No,
Charles 75 ends back, apparently.
Hey, Charles.
Nice.
Oh, great. Vanzini's in there too. Hey.
Yeah. All the cool kids showing up. Yeah, I can't remember. I was looking at the used pedals the other day, and there's a few there that I was like, oh, I totally don't need this, but I want it. So, folks, you just check.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's kind of a constant thing for us. Like I said, if that Echo Drive ends up coming through, I'm kind of in trouble because that's one of those ones like I kind of have to get, because I'll never probably see another one. Literally, they're that rare. But
right.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because even just the last few days, for some reason we've had a lot of King Tone stuff coming through, and so that stuff, even though it is a little pricey, it is really, really good stuff, and it's super flexible. Like anything that they make is super flexible. So it's been kind of an interesting thing. Like I've wanted to try a lot of those, and then all of a sudden, like 3 or 4 of them have shown up over the last few weeks.
BC Rich asks, do you have any, do you own or have you owned any Washburn guitars?
I haven't, but I need to. The closest thing I have to it was actually funny because my grandpa used to always ask, why I wasn't playing a Washburn, and they're used. They don't really come up too often, and I always wanted, if I was going to play one, I always kind of wanted a USA one, but just never found one, quite yet. The closest thing I have, though, is I think we've talked about this previously, but are you familiar with Barrington Guitars, Ben?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah. So Barrington, like the USA side of it, was in Barrington, Illinois, out of Chicago, and essentially when they started up, even though they were only around for like 3 or 4 years, when they started up, they essentially hijacked all the Washburn luthiers at the time that were on the USA side. And so most of the Barringtons that were made in the States were all kind of made by the guys that used to head up the USA Washburn spot. So that's the closest one I have, because essentially my Barrington, it's a Washburn Super Strat. It just has the Barrington kind of name on there.
Sure. And I see Charles was cooking dinner. He says these people expect to eat every day. Well, I expect post-show hang then, Charles. I'm just saying, since you already fed them. And Terry mentions the Nuno N4. Ooh, it's not the biggest guitar in the world, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is a cool guitar, though. I always like a lot of the natural-looking ones, too.
Yeah. I don't know. If I was going to get a Washburn, probably be like maybe a dime bag guitar of some kind.
Yeah, an original one would be pretty awesome to get. Yeah, that would be true. And I saw I had a friend that was kind of hunting for different like oddball guitars, and it looked like Washburn at one point. It would have only been like a slew of them, but they did actually end up making an Explorer. And I mean, it would have literally just been a handful, but it was one, like I always thought it would have been kind of cool to have a Explorer that had the Washburn, because the hockey headstock's solid for the Washburn name. So
sure.
But yeah, I actually should try to look for a good one. I mean, I forgot what it's called, but they're Les Paul style ones. Not bad either. I mean, you don't see them too often, but it is a pretty fun guitar.
And I think, was it Paul Stanley had a signature Washburn for a period of time?
He did.
I can't remember what it looked like. I just remember that they were working together.
It's kind of what his Ibanez looks like. I mean, more. I think it was that Iceman style kind of guitar. I think it was just Washburn that was doing it at the time.
I might want one of those too then. A Washburn Iceman would be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, Washburn was interesting because I guess for a while they were, that for a hot minute they were the go-to kind of shredder's guitar company. Yep. And it's just kind of weird how quickly that kind of went up, and then like I said, they kind of dispersed to all these other companies. But
Michael Chris says, who the bleep hasn't Paul Stanley done a model with?
Yeah, at this point. Well, him and like Dave Mustaine, they've made their way through pretty much everybody.
Yep. Johnny Highland.
Yeah.
As well.
Yep.
He's gone around. I look at the same sports. It's like, why tour on your own dime when you can get financing from a guitar company with endorsements?
Yeah. Well, and Kiss is kind of, they're like, I don't know, they're like a NASCAR kind of version of a band.
They are. I still get a kick out of the fact like Gene has like they're doing like the inspired by Gene Simmons like Gibson stuff, and I was like, I think playing a grabber back in the day. It's like he always played like the battle axe, which were custom made. Like unless Gibson's going to start making those,
right? Yeah, you couldn't really do anything overly signature for. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, especially because like Ace, that's an easy one, but although I wonder if you'd only get like a one-time use out of the smoke machine part of it, or if it would be refillable.
Exactly. I thought at least they could save on wiring because you only ever had the bridge pickup wired up, so you could just the middle one's there, but it's not even connected, so don't even worry about it.
Yeah, you could even just make it look like there's a pickup there. I guess you wouldn't even need to really build the rest of it out.
Dwight Bailey. I thought the funniest was the Tommy Thayer, but his signatures were Epiphones. I'm like, might as well, fake Les Paul for a fake Ace.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of funny when that happens. Like, that or like whenever Gibson seems to like test the waters with like an Epiphone version of something.
Yeah, we'll release an Epiphone version. You're not worthy of Gibby, but we'll give you an Epiphone thing.
Well, because I remember they did that for Matt Heffy or whatever from Trivium. Like they kind of launched him first on Epiphone and then did the Gibson one. But it was just kind of like, I mean, he deserved to get. I mean, he'd been playing Gibsons forever, so.
Yeah. What's up, John DeShane? Well, it was even like Richie Faulkner. It was the Epiphone V. Which worth some money now, apparently. Yeah,
it's weird. A lot of those, like even I was really surprised those 58 style reissue Vs that they did, the ebony ones with the gold hardware.
Right.
Those things are like almost as much as a Gibson now, pretty much. I mean, they're in that 1,700-1,800 range sometimes, which is unbelievable to me. But
there's certain models of those I can't handle. Like I can't handle when they do like the Gibson badge. That's basically like a Fender amp badge. And that 3D. Yeah. I'm like, that's just nobody needs that on a headstock. That's just hideous. I don't need a 3-dimensional logo on a headstock.
The only one I do like though, I really like the way Yamaha just does like the little badge. Like I do actually think that kind of looks cool because like it's, I don't know, it's subtle and it's not the logo isn't taking up 3/4 of the headstock, so it's kind of nice.
What's up, Brad?
Yamaha in general, honestly, is a company that just doesn't get enough attention when it comes to guitars. I feel like a lot of people still are just like, at least stateside, are very wary of giving them a chance. But like those Red Stars are unbelievable for the price. Like if you're looking for a Gibson style guitar, because like all of them are chambered, so they don't weigh like 1,000,000 pounds. Some of them have like matte finish necks, and like they kind of save you the trouble of doing anything to them.
I don't like the tailpiece that you have to unscrew to get the fucking strings out to do.
That is, on some of them, because they have kind of like a more standard tunematic style one, and then they have that more, like
it's held down with 4 screws, and if you snug the screws down, there's not enough clearance to pull the strings out. I was like, who invented this?
Yeah,
because I did a setup for that and the pickups to get them to balance out. I had to have them all weird, jacked up way. The guy gets back, he's like, why are my pickups all in like crooked? I was like, well, for them to be balanced sounding, that's what I had to do.
Right.
Oh, fair enough. But then it's great after that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say that was kind of a poor engineering choice, but it happens occasionally, I think.
Then again, you got Gibson, which designs guitars with headstock dives, which that's a design flaw out of the box as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's weird too, because like I've met a few people that like, especially guys that are just like diehard SG guys, that like they're almost so used to that they can't play things that don't have that, like a neck dive.
Yeah. They're like, how do you play without the whole guitar sitting in your hand?
Yeah. Yeah, to me, like, it doesn't make sense because, like, even though Explorers are like obnoxiously big, the one thing that's amazing about them is they sit perfectly in playing position. So,
and they're balanced. They're very balanced.
Yes. Well, that's what I mean. Like, they literally, you don't even have to touch it and it sits. Like, it just sits there for you. So.
Yep. What's up, Surfer B? DMAC asks, do you guys have any opinions on the 15-watt EVH Iconic?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, all the Iconic stuff's been really solid. The main thing we've kind of noticed at the shop has just been, I mean, that goes for pretty much any amp, but the speaker choice and the cabinet choice you make, ends up being a huge, huge part of it. Because I think when they first launched, a lot of people were just kind of always sticking them through the, pretty similar speakers. And it's like, if you do kind of vary it up a little bit and throw them through something that's a little, like a cab that's a little darker. Because like we had one guy that tried his through like an orange cab and sounded awesome. So just kind of depends on what you throw it through. But
that's true. People don't realize speakers make such a huge difference in your tone.
Yes. Yeah, that's like by far the most overlooked part of it. Or even just like the guys that kind of endlessly cycle through combos rather than, grabbing like a head and cab and then like, because to me, like, I'm a big fan of just, even if it's a 112, like, just have a cab that you know exactly what it's doing, exactly what it sounds like, and then that part of the equation doesn't factor in as much when you're cycling through heads. That way you can kind of narrow things down, because I think a lot of times guys like cycle through combos and then they're falling more in love with the combo aspect of it, the joint speaker and that, or they're not. They're they're liking the amp, but they don't like the speaker, and so they kind of throw everything out rather than just finding the one that matches up with what they want to do.
Hey, there's Guitar Man 45. Of course. So Guitar Man 45, he's in Michigan, and he was affected by some of the tornadoes on Thursday. So he had no power, running on generators until today. The crew shows up, get his power back on, and he says the crew apparently came back to hang for a while at the campfire afterwards, because that's kind of host he is. So nice.
Well, I'm sure they appreciate it. That's pretty good. Yeah, I'm glad he didn't have any major damage. That's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he said, I think there was one tornado 4 miles from him. Like, since when are there tornadoes in Michigan? That's not.
Well, tornadoes are like boars. They're just slowly migrating north. They're just slowly coming up north with each year.
It seems that way. I'm like, yeah, but now he's west of me. So that means I am susceptible to tornadoes as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, by 2050, there'll probably, I'm sure there'll be tornadoes in the Yukon by that point.
Okay, yeah. Billy, he's outside of Cleveland. So, and they missed him. It's like, okay. That's on the south side of the lake.
It is weird. Like, the frequency of tornadoes and then where they are showing up now is really weird for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, it's been kind of a freakish summer in some parts of the country too, so it kind of makes sense.
Exactly. Like Charles 75 Ben's in Texas, where it's been triple digits for like 2 months straight now.
Right.
And he's like, I'm sick of it. I'm like, I get it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I think what was it, like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, when Death Valley hit like 130 or 131, something like that, which was nuts.
Mm-hmm. What's up, Daryl B? Says tornadoes are a normal thing out here in Manitoba now, flipping crazy. Yep. Okay, people are telling me apparently there's been tornadoes in Ohio before. All right, easy. The more I know.
Well, it's funny, I mean, they're rare here, but we get them here occasionally. They're just, luckily, most of the time, just because it is, especially when you get to the Front Range, they kind of have a lot of different terrain to kind of engage with. So most of the time, they can kind of skip over spots. But like up to the north of us, like some parts of like Greeley and stuff where, it's almost like Kansas out there. So sometimes they'll get hit pretty bad up there. But
Charles says, getting a bit of rain here, almost forgot what it is. Right. And my niece Hurts just reporting in, making curry, added habanero. Let's get spicy. Well, apparently. Okay.
Habanero curry? Interesting.
He likes to lead a dangerous life, apparently.
Yeah, fusion. He must have like a iron bowels, I guess.
That's true. DMAC, the Ottawa Valley, which is northeast of me, has become Tornado Alley lately too. That's true. DMAC reports in, I've seen Hughes and Kentner cabs with V30s at good prices. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, I mean, the stuff that what is it? What's the I always forget. Harley Benton. Yeah, I was gonna say honestly, those you can't really beat price wise because I mean they're almost selling them for as much as it would be to just buy the speakers. So, if you're looking for like a decent cab that's definitely priced well below everything else, those ones are really hard to beat. I mean, I think if I remember right, where those are made is pretty much directly next to the Celestion factory that's in China. So that's why they're able to just spit those out.
Right. Okay. My niece says all my food is spicy. My fridge is empty except for like 34 bottles of hot sauce.
I wonder how long you could survive on that. Yeah, I don't know. Seems rough, but
that's a lot.
Rough way to go, but
right. Yeah, hot sauce is not a dietary food group.
Yeah. It consists of a few different food groups, but it doesn't really hit any of them correctly.
No, it's not like you should be pouring a glass of it to wash down dinner. No. He says survive on just hot sauce, no beer, probably like 3 hours.
Yeah, I don't know if you can get like dysentery through like hot sauce consumption, but
Boas, did Dylan ever get his variants approved at the township?
At the what?
A variance. Apparently, you're looking to get a variance approved for the new store, possibly. I don't know.
Well, I mean, mostly, all that pretty much went through. The last thing that was kind of holding up, which isn't really a hold up, but we had to actually get a permit for the sign because the sign was changed from, well, it wasn't changed. It was just, we went with Ike wanted a circle, obviously, instead of a square because the logo is a circle. And so, yeah, they made him get a permit for that. But, yeah, luckily, everything else, I think, went through just fine. Yeah, it was actually pretty ridiculous. He had to get, like, the architect to actually draw up the dimensions of the sign just because it was a circle and not a square. So the whole thing was just, that one, it almost felt made up, but who knows at this point.
Cousin Doug says talking about hot sauce reminds me of another Taco Bell incident. You mean Beckley, West Virginia, Doug? Michael Easter reports in hot sauce is the spice of life. Sure. Squire Telecaster says salsa, not hot sauce. Salsa is all you need. Okay.
Salsa is pretty amazing. I mean, I'm not gonna lie there.
Then again, my niece says he's gone through the whole bottle of hot sauce in one day. That's a lot.
I could see it. Yeah, my grandpa used to go. I mean, like depending on the day and the food, for certain things, he'd go through quite a bit of it pretty damn quick.
So not Beckley, West Virginia, Doug says. Okay. Another Taco Bell incident. All right. That should tell you something, Doug. That should tell you something. If you have more than one incident involving food there, I'm just saying. That visual guy. This is Flipside Music. My boy Jake, the guitarist, works there.
Yeah, Jake, that's so whenever we say Goots, that's usually who we're referring to. Jake's honestly really solid. If you guys haven't checked him out on like his Instagram channel, eventually we'll have him doing stuff like that for the shop. We should have already by now, really, but yeah, for his age, he is a pretty incredible guitar player. Really good at slide stuff. So if you're into if you're an Allman Brothers fan in the slightest, he's definitely that type of player. So.
Let's see. Michael Easter says, my sister is manager for a local hot sauce company. We have it all the time, including some pretty crazy stuff. Nice.
So, that's funny. Speaking of all the hot sauce, Jake and I, so that's why we actually have to call Goots Goots instead of calling him Jake, because Jake, who I've, he's basically been, well, honestly, Jake's been with us almost the whole time, really. But we used to rehearse like when we were, I don't know, it was probably 2016, 2017, somewhere in there. But we actually used to rehearse in a hot sauce factory that, because he worked for Danny Cash Hot Sauce. So it was pretty fun because I actually used to be able to turn up my whole rig. And at that point, I was running like the full stereo rig. I used to be able to turn that up in like I think it was 17,000 square feet in that warehouse.
Oh, nice.
So it was kind of amazing, like turning up a full rig in there.
Very cool. Hey, what's up, Blackjack Guitar?
Oh, Blackjack, yeah. He pops in over on the Flipside streams every once in a while.
Let's see here. Someone asked, have you ever had hot sauce and tequila? Well, I've had Tabasco sauce and tequila. It's called a Prairie Fire. Don't recommend it.
Yeah, I can't say I've tried that.
Don't. That's just became legal drinking age type of shot. Let's have Prairie Fires. Yeah, okay. Why?
Right. Make sure your heartburn is absolutely at peak temperature.
Right. Unbelievable says slides, glass or brass, and why?
I really like brass personally. I have tried to like tried to like glass slides. Haven't really ever bonded with them, and I just tend to break them. So for me, I like the brass ones, and it really comes to more like, I like the texture, just the way the brass kind of grips into the string just a bit. Because I feel like glass, it's just, a little slippery. It doesn't really ever have that contact that brass has. So I usually go brass, but I honestly need to work on slide more. It's pretty fun, but I'm not really that good at it yet.
For me, it's glass at home, brass when I gig, because you're always going to drop your slide when gigging. And
makes sense. Yeah, I'm actually a pretty big fan of ceramic too. Like whenever we have those come, because we have Rocky Mountain slides so he makes a bunch of different ones. Like he does stone, ceramic. He does like even like tiger's eye and marble and all kinds of different, stone ones too. And but his stuff, like he does brass ones as well. But for the most part, like his ceramic ones actually end up being really, really, really good. Again, for me, it's kind of that thing where it grips in. I feel like it, I don't know, just having that extra bit of contact just feels better, I guess.
I busted one out of the package the other day because I've had it forever. What do they call it? Moonshine glass. Tempered glass slide. I don't know. It's got frosted on the inside, so grips, and it's a little shorter too, which I kind of like.
Nice.
But, yeah. Still getting used to it. It's literally been sitting in the package for years. I think I bought it about 5 years ago. And
yeah, it was funny. Speaking of Goots, like the most recent one he told me to try out was one of the rock slides we got in, which I actually really do like theirs, because like they have kind of that little notch for the ring finger, or well, whatever finger you kind of have buffer,
right?
And then that little bit of a cutaway, I feel like is pretty nice too.
That is cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna give that one a shot. It's a little heavy, but we'll see.
I've got a couple people asking, what's up with the high watt behind you? I've never seen one that small before.
Oh yeah, the little baby high watt. So that's the high 5, which is pretty funny. So it's just a little 5-watt high watt. But yeah, a friend of ours in the shop, like he ended up bringing a bunch of stuff by, and that was one that he had. They're actually not that expensive. I think originally they were retailing somewhere in the 300 range. They weren't like super crazy. They just did a short run of them. They did some in green, and then they did the little black guys. But when it came through, it was just one of those ones. Because even though I usually talk about the high watt, my high watt is technically a clone. So I mean it's it's based off the DR103, but the tech basically, the first guy that had it kind of changed up the power section a little bit. So the only thing it really has different than like a typical high watt would be like it has oversized transformers. So instead of being like 100 watts, it's probably closer to like the 150 to 2 range. But yeah, that one had infinite headroom, and it's actually funny. So this little one I actually use most of the time more for recording stuff at home. In terms of like when I don't want to use like the full rig, because that one's only like 5 watts, and like I said, I can actually turn it up pretty good, and it does a decent job. I mean, once you record it, you'd never really know it wasn't, a bigger amp.
Let's see.
But yeah, if anybody out there sees any of the green ones, those are the ones to get just for the fun factor. But yeah, it's like a dark green high watt that, and I can't remember. I think they only did. It was probably I think it was like a weed thing, so they ended up only doing like 420 of those or something like that. It wasn't a lot of them.
Sure. Mark Taft comments he did the Dolan's Challenge years ago, which was a bar here in town. 3 prairie fires in 6 seconds. That's
Jesus.
nuts.
Yeah.
And Bo mentions, remember you giving away a mag slide ways back? Yeah, I have one of those as well. It's got the notches, not as pronounced, but it's also not round inside.
Oh yeah, kind of groove. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it's got high spots, so it won't rotate on you, which is kind of cool. It's super light because it's like, well, it's lighter than glass. I know that, but it's super thick too. So,
nice.
Yeah, I picked that up at NAMM show in 2019, Summer NAMM.
Yeah, it's weird. Slide's one of those things. I guess you just, no matter what, you kind of just end up cycling through to look for different ones all the time.
Always.
Like we have a lot of guys that come through, and that's just, they're kind of always on the eternal hunt for the missing slide.
Because we all suck at slide, and we figure finding the magic one.
Find the right one, it'll make it. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, because as guitar players, we're like, well, it can't be us. We can't be the reason. Billy says my local guitar center has a 100-watt high watt on the floor. I'm tempted to go in there and dime it. You should.
Yeah, it's a guitar center. May as well. Might not have another chance. I mean, honestly, high watts. Have you ever played one, Ben, or like anything in that family?
I have not. I've wanted to, but I've only seen one once.
Yeah, they're really. I don't know. For me, they hit the perfect sweet spot because like they kind of have everything you want about a Fender and a Marshall in one kind of concise package. Like they don't, for me, I'm usually using mine more for kind of a platform, but really though, it's still breaking up pretty good because that's the whole thing. The master volumes on those are perfect because it's not like I feel like a lot of master volumes you end up kind of having them and they have sweet spots. They don't always, a lot of times it'll kind of be choking it out and then you'll eventually get it high enough and it sounds good. High watts, I don't feel like ever really do that though, because like any high watt I've ever played, whether it was like a 50 watt or 100 watt, you could use the master volume, get it down to a reasonable level, and you weren't like losing all the character of the amp. So that's kind of my favorite thing about it is like it can be a really loud, incredibly loud amp, but it can also be like a very friendly, kind of smooth, quiet amp if you need it to be. So
sure. Apparently, Brad Miller says he's the one that won the mag slide on the channel. Nice. And my lovely sister Amanda has joined us. That's awesome. What's up, sis?
Hey, Amanda. Just say it's been a little bit. Yeah, Brad popped in a bit too. We actually just found after the move, we were looking all over because he had made a bunch of those card holders for us at one point, and so we finally found our box with all that stuff in it just the other day. So
nice. Yes, part of pedal to metal guitar.
I think I was asking him about an Explorer one. I guess you'll need to get one too at some point.
Right. Yeah, I currently have this one right here.
Yeah. I was gonna say I think we basically have a lot of those. Like I said, we were kind of looking all over for a lot of stuff. Luckily, we found our patch cables, and then we found, like I said, all that stuff because a few things we had were all not really missing. We just didn't know exactly what happened to them after the move. Because that was kind of crazy. I forgot if we ended up even covering that, but we basically did that in one day. Kind of unreal when I think back on it anyway.
Apparently I'm missing the other one. Where the hell? Oh, there it is. The fancy one. And
that one's got a light. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, lights up too.
Nice.
Brad says the engineering has not got back to me yet on the Explorer model.
Yeah, it's obviously it's always the Explorer is always going to be the weird body type, whether it's the case or whatever it is. It's always the hardest one to accommodate.
EVH tribute decals, Brad. Maybe a fellow would throw one on the minivan. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I was gonna say we actually need another one of those because we have that pole up front, but I think the one we had last time didn't make it during the move because it was already attached to something. So we'll have to get another one of those from them.
Devin asked, Ben and Dylan, what is your desert island pedal?
That's wow. I mean, I guess now, like lately, I don't know if that would always just be in the moment kind of thing. But like I said, lately the LVX has kind of been hard for me to get out of. I mean, it kind of hits all the spots for all the things that I normally wouldn't use, which is kind of why I'm having fun with it, I guess. Because like you can kind of, flange isn't something I normally engage with. Chorus isn't really either. But like you start throwing all bit crushing, all that stuff's all stuff I don't normally experiment with, but I'm kind of having a hard time putting that one down, and it's actually been a while. I think I've had it about 2 months now, so I guess I'd have to go with that one for now.
It depends on the amp I have, I guess, but
yeah. So I was gonna say for me that's a big part of that too. Now that you mention it, because like I don't think I'd be able to give up the Demogorgon either, because it's like the closest I feel like I'll ever get to like an almost signature pedal. So for me, like that one's just. I mean,
I Charles mentioned, he goes, I think there is an answer for you, eh? Yeah, well, I could go with my signature pedal, but that's the obvious thing. But right now, I'm going to say the LPD Embers, which is like his claw.
Embers? Okay, that is a good one. Yeah.
That's gone back on my board.
Anything bad, but that one really did actually stand out quite a bit when we had them.
Well, I took my Dutch off the board because I noticed it had a battery clip in it, so I've been using that for when I go over to Long McQuaid and shoot guitar demos. Because they're like, "Well, you can use one of our overdrive pedals." I'm like, "Nah, your stuff's subpar." They're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "This is boutique." They're like, "Oh, okay, I get it." Jim Cox in the house.
Yeah, that's another one because like my treble booster, that's another one I don't think I could give up because so Chuck, like I said, the guy that does that's going to be working with us, he built me one, and he'd basically taken these transistors. It was like a matched pair out of like I think it was an old radio from like the late 50s, early 60s, and he just pulled those out of there and then kind of biased them to where he needed it, and ended up being like it's kind of more of a full range boost, but I mean it's in the treble booster family. But that's another one like I kind of use that all the time just because it. I don't know. It instantly makes things sound kind of vintage, if that makes sense. So for me, it hits that sweet spot.
That's right. My niece are boutique. It's like you get a kick at. So I was a few months ago. I put up some gear on the local, buy and sell. Obviously, open to trade. So it's a digital multi-effects unit, and the guy's first response is, "Are you into boutique pedals?" I'm like, yes. What do you have? Being that we're in small town Ontario, I'm thinking, what's your definition of boutique? And he's
how
like,
boutique is it? Yeah.
So he offered me a Boss Angry driver and a couple of diamond pedals. And I'm like, yes, I will take all of those. Thank you very much.
That's a solid option.
Yeah. The compressor, it went onto my board and it's never leaving my board. The diamond compressor is just.
That is a really good one. They came back recently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Solid Gold is now doing their stuff.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I'm glad they came back because they're one of those ones like we used to get a lot of them in the shop, but I don't even know the last time I saw one at this point.
Yeah, they were originally built in Nova Scotia, and now Solid Gold Effects out of I think Montreal either bought them or is at least building their stuff. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say we've been talking to Solid Gold for a bit now. We just have kind of been trying to get back up to snuff at the new spot, but I'm sure we're going to end up with them at some point because Ike's he really likes a lot of their stuff that we've had come through, so he kind of reached out to them not too long ago. And they're good. They really do make some good stuff. Like they, especially if I think their Fuzz Face one was one of those. Because to me, like Fuzz Face is everybody I don't know, fuzz faces are kind of like tube screamers, or they're like the scrambled eggs of the pedal world. So everybody
Sure.
kind of does it just a little different. But I do feel like the solid gold effects one hits a really good spot. So.
Yeah, I got my fuzz face covered with the limited run that Lawrence did. His Soleil fuzz.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, which was supposed to be Brad Guitar Miller's one, but he sent it to me by mistake. And he's like, well, you might as well take it out of the box and try it, before you send it off, maybe shoot a video. And I plugged it in with a Strat, and I went, wow, I'm not a fuzz guy, but this I need in my life. Great. And it's basically a fuzz face with an added bias control, so I could actually dial it into more usable.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that not everybody, but I feel like there is a fuzz for everybody. You just you really have to explore to find it. 'Cause like that is the biggest thing at the shop because like every shop has overdrives, every shop has delay pedals, every shop has reverbs, but like fuzzes is like one of the things that we have, an exceptional amount of when it comes to options. So for me, like fuzz is one of the more fun ones because like we get guys that come in all the time that are like, I'm not a fuzz guy, or they, I think a lot of it has to do with how it feels because like a lot of times I kind of compare fuzz, especially if you're a guy that's kind of more of a shreddy guy or you just like a faster kind of attack. It's kind of like trying to sprint through mud, but it can be, if you have fun with it, like it can really change the way you play. And that's kind of what I love about fuzz is like, if you play to the fuzz rather than trying to make the fuzz work for you, it kind of ends up, that's usually where the breakthrough kind of happens. But I mean, some people just hate them. I get that. But at the same time, like there's so many fuzzes out there that I can't believe there's not at least one for everybody.
Right. What's up, Absolute Mayhem? Like Dan in New Jersey says, Germanium and I don't get along. That's fine. That's fine.
To me, Germanium is one of those hit or miss things. I mean, obviously the biggest thing, especially when it comes to fuzzes or even treble boosters, would be they definitely clean up in a way that the other, that silicone doesn't. But I don't know. To me, it's germanium's kind of one of those hype words too, because there's a lot of people that like often seem to kind of confuse germanium clipping diodes with germanium transistors, and it's like it's miles apart. Because like to me, on like an overdrive, you're you can feel a bit of a difference with the clipping section, but it's not nearly as much as you do when like a fuzz that's silicone versus one that's germanium of the same type. Like you definitely do get a huge difference between those two. So,
well, Squire Telecaster says, "What's a fair price on a good fuzz pedal?" That depends. Depends on the builder.
Yeah, but I think it depends. In this day and age, I mean, the big companies can knock them out at a price that everybody else really can't, just because they can acquire mass amounts of parts and in a way that the small guys can't. But I mean, I think for like the boutique market or like the small builder market, I mean, I think anything in the 1 to 200 range is more than fair. I think when you start getting into that like 300 plus range is when it starts getting a little, especially for fuzz. That's when I feel like it gets pretty ridiculous. Because
unless it's like you sourced some obscure chip from back in the day type thing. It's like, okay.
Yeah, and that's like maybe the only time that I guess financially would make sense. But in terms of like whether it's worth it, that's that's way too subjective. But I mean, I'm kind of, there's so many amazing fuzzes between $100 to $200 that like, especially because like, Matt from Stomp Underfoot, all of, everything he makes is below 200 for the most part. So it's like, he's one of those ones where like, even though like, JHS makes the Muffaletta, which covers a lot of ground when it comes to muffs, to be honest, like that pedal really just helps us sell other pedals. Like it's not a pedal that we actually sell very often. It really just helps us sell other fuzzes, because most of the time people just try that one and they find the one they like, and then they just buy one of, like one of the Stomp Underfoot ones instead. So
I'm a firm believer. If it's got all the options, none of them are going to be perfect. There's compromises. There has to be compromises.
Yeah. I mean, one of the few ones, like in terms of like a multi-mode fuzz that I absolutely do love, because normally I don't. Normally, like for me, like the optimal fuzz should be about 3 knobs, and that's about it most of the time. unless it has like something else, you know, like mids or octaves or something going on. But
yeah,
like,
give me a tone control, a bias, a gain, and a level file.
Yeah, for the most part, like that's all I feel like all you need. But the Eons from Walrus, like if you're looking for, you know, like an exploratory fuzz, that one actually is pretty tough to beat because like I feel like it, you know, it has some a little bit of overlap with some of the other family trees of fuzz, but it doesn't explicitly remind me immediately of another pedal. So it's like it's one of those ones that like has all these other options in it that are actually really interesting and usable. It's not just like one of those, because like I feel like most multi fuzzes, you find one spot, you kind of stick there, and you never really go anywhere else. So then it's like, well, why do you need all the options if it's gonna just live in that setting?
Right, I see what you did there, sis. She's fighting a germanium herself, but the sniffles. Let's see. Bo says, "I'm not really a big fuzz guy. I'll play with them, but I've never used one live. I don't know if I've ever had a fuzz pedal on my board for a gig."
Yeah, I mean,
well, wait. I think I did have a muff on my board for a little while. Sure.
That is one thing too, and I mean, I guess going back to amp combos, that is definitely something because I feel like a lot of people too, just because Fenders are obviously probably the most prevalent thing. You know, at least for most people, a lot of times like there's not a lot of fuzzes that I feel like genuinely sound good in a Fender amp. Like they're just that's not a combo that works all that great for me.
Yeah, if you're doing that kind of, I don't know, the fuzz face stratty, you can get away with some Fender stuff, but
yeah,
you know, but it's like you got to go. You're not doing cool fuzz. You're doing like old blues, you know, kind of thing. You know.
Well, I mean, like Fenders for the most part, at least the classic stuff, you know, it's almost fighting to stay clean.
Yeah.
And to me, like you got to have an amp that's like a little bit clean on the edge of breakup, and like the fuzz is just gonna cave it in. Because like for me, that's where like the interaction of the two is what makes fuzz fun. Whereas like Fenders are kind of just you just kind of get all of the not all the harshness, but you kind of get this conflict where the amp is trying to fight the fuzz. And you know, I don't know. I just feel like most of the time something that has a little give to it kind of ends up being a better spot. High watts are weird though in that range because actually going back to those, there's high watts are kind of stiff, but like stiff in a pretty good way, if that makes sense. Like they're not unforgiving, but they're definitely not, you know, as squishy as like a Fender or a Marshall. So like when you hit them with a fuzz, especially like a loose, like a big muff style fuzz, the tightness of the amp kind of mixing with the, you know, the woofiness of the pedal, you end up getting this combo that's just, you know, perfect. So for me, a lot of it does obviously end up being that combo of amp and pedal. But
so we got Max Josephson in the house, Paul Leonard Ewing, the legend himself, Haas. Good to see you. This is a great, interesting conversation. Thanks, fellas. Saw Haas putting through a certain amp head through a bunch of paces the other day. It's over on Jason's channel. That was awesome stuff. It's like, we've got one head. How many different tones can we get out of it? And he's just doing all these different tones out of this beautiful Marshall-esque, we'll call it. Everything from Eddie to Nuno to Lynch to, I was like, okay, there it is. Yep.
Nice.
LRM Guitar says Neil Young made Fender and fuzz work.
Yeah, I mean, the tweed would be kind of the exception, but I mean, honestly, the way he's using it, again, the amp is kind of the amp.
And he's also using a Baldwin solid state mixed in with that too. So
yeah, but obviously a lot of his early stuff. I mean, he's, you know, using a Tweed Deluxe that's about to, you know, burst into flames, hitting it with a fuzz, like that certainly does work. Tweeds would obviously, I mean, I wouldn't say they're the exception to the rule with Fender, but they kind of are just because of the way they break up. They definitely don't have that. Because like to me, the silver face, black face stuff is really that's the stuff that kind of is fighting to stay clean most of the time. Whereas like a tweed, I mean, you know, they're usually 15 to 30 watts at most, and they're not really, you know, they're not like trying to stay clean the whole time.
I swear, and some of the fuzz pedals, like people like drop some of the gain in the fuzz. You know, it's like, oh, to run it, you know, you got to put the level past noon, put the fuzz down to like just barely on. I was like, no, I want to put my knobs at noon and dial in from there. add or take away. And then it's like, oh, and by the way, you got to run your pickup at about a 7. No, no, too much work.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like, well, and that is one fun thing with fuzz too, is that kind of interaction of how you're attacking it in terms of pick attack, but then your pickups, because I probably wasn't really that into single coils until I did start exploring more with fuzzes, because like to me, single coils and fuzzes are definitely more nuanced than like humbuckers, because humbuckers are kind of always just they work obviously, but they're kind of always hitting it in a very specific way, whereas like single coils, you end up getting kind of a little more character out of there sometimes. But.
So Patrick Troy says, my Tweed Twin has to be dimed before it starts to break up. Yep.
Well, Twin, yeah, the big guys, but yeah, the Tweed Deluxe, like I said, those kind of hit that sweet spot. Or even, I mean, honestly, even a champ, like a good champ with a fuzz pedal actually works. But again, like a champ, you're at 4, once you're at 4 on the volume, it's starting to give up. It's really, like I said, the, deluxe reverbs, Princeton's, well, not Princeton's, they work pretty good for that, because you can usually get away with turning out. Like deluxe reverbs, super reverbs, twin, the full twins, those usually end up having a harder time, but just kind of depends. I mean, to me, like Mesa's another company that doesn't always get along with fuzz. Like a lot of the gain character of their amps is just too compressed, so sometimes it just doesn't interact in quite the same way. They're not bad, it's just kind of a weird change, because like to me, once fuzz gets super compressed, it kind of really changes a lot of the feel.
Beast says, I love that weird gizmo that Neil Young has, spins the amp knobs automatically. I used to know what that's called.
Yeah, I forgot what that was called too, but yeah. Well, and two, he was using didn't he have like a couple 15s mixed in there in terms of, were those
the Wizard. I knew it was after the motorcycle or the motorized bicycle conversion.
Oh, okay.
Wizard. Sense. Yeah, with all the servos. Yeah, rather than just having a switcher that would just switch to amps with different presets. Oh, no, we'll just adjust the knobs on the amps.
Yeah.
Or you can use a pedal, Neil. You can use a pedal. Just hit it with a distortion.
Yeah. Yeah, he had honestly, a lot of his stuff, though. I mean, it's one of those guys, like, if he'd done it any other way, would it have sounded the same, though? I don't know.
Yeah. Josh Tamberg says orange plus fuzz equals happy place.
Yeah. See, that's another amp that I do feel like because those tend to, especially the ones that are, it doesn't even have to really be that gainy. It just has to kind of be on the edge of breakup, and then once you push it with a fuzz, it hits a good spot.
Scott Brockway says cranked bassman for the win. Sure.
Yeah, if you can get away with it, actually, those can be really fun with fuzz too occasionally. But that's another one that's hard to, well, these days it's hard to really get away with that, I guess.
Yeah. Michael Kress says, does it have to be an orange tube amp? I don't know. Probably not.
I mean, because the Crush stuff's not bad. I mean, and it has at least a tube preamp on those, so kind of just depends. But yeah, I mean, most of the oranges I've ever tried have been like the, most of the standard stuff, the rock reverbs, the terrors, like any of that stuff.
I had a dark micro terror for a while.
Yeah, they're fun amps. I mean, they kind of, those are a little more, simple for sure, but they're fun. Honestly, too, like orange, depending on the orange, sometimes you really don't even need a fuzz with those. I mean, you can kind of whoop them up a bit to where they almost kind of cop a good fuzz tone.
That's why I always thought their breakup had that kind of a fuzzy, bubbly, like biased way of doing things.
Well, that's why
I always said orange amps sound like orange. Like that's the one thing with those amps. They do one thing. They sound like oranges.
Yes. Well, that's one thing, like, I always recommend to guys that, like, because like treble boosters are one of those pedals that not a lot of people, just because of the name, I think don't always give them a fair shake. But if you love all the characteristics of a fuzz without all the gain, that's where like treble boosters kind of become the perfect thing. Because like for me, it ends up you get all that character and all that kind of texture that you want from like a fuzz, but you don't necessarily have to deal with that massive increase in gain. So
Michael Torin, what's up, my friend? Good to see you.
That, and like I said, treble boosters too. Those, I mean, those are probably one of the most fun things for me to explore in terms of different ones, just because like each one does have its own kind of character. Even two of the same one, like I played, I don't know how many Java boosts from Keeley, and none of them sound exactly the same.
Michael Torin was last week's guest. Fun hang last week.
Nice.
I'm flying back and forth to Vegas all week. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
So have you had any particular pedals lately that you haven't been able to kind of put down?
Actually, I'm revisiting. I've got the Diamond Drive.
No, okay, yeah, part of that trade.
Or, was it the J Drive? Mark II, Mark III.
Oh yeah, the JFET one. Oh, that one's awesome. Yeah, those are actually really good.
Yeah, I like it in the brighter sound. Yeah, well, I realized I want to shoot a demo on it, and then the idea was to shoot a demo on it, then throw it up for sale. But I'm kind of liking it again, so I'm like, all right. So I gotta shoot a demo, but then we'll see what happens.
That's always the risk of plugging it in. Sometimes it sounds better than you expect it to. So
yeah. Other than that, what else? I've been pretty good for pedals as of late. I think one of the last ones is my two latest phasers, which are both on the boards, which was with the return of DOD, their phaser. I love.
You got the 2-stage one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Keeley Custom Shop vintage phaser I have as well.
Okay. Yeah, that one's a good one.
That's nice. Which I didn't even know they had a custom shop, and I'm like, oh, dang, like I need to know that in my life.
Yeah, when they do those limited runs, it's pretty cool. They do some really cool stuff every once in a while. Yeah, phasers, I don't know. Yeah, I'm still pretty happy with my Grand Orbiter. The only thing, like, I still wish they would go ahead and put one out with an expression control, because that one does some of the best. Like, if you actually want it to do like phaser kind of laser noises, like you can actually get it to do that too. It's just a matter of being able to kind of ride that rate control or not.
Right. And the other one, which is currently off the board for the Diamond Drive, because this has been going back on the board repeatedly, the Radial North Star.
Oh yeah,
love it, because it breaks up different than any other distortion or overdrive I had. It's whatever. It's got a slightly different flavor, and it's got a low, normal, and high range. I just run it normal. Don't use the boost that much, and made in Canada. So why not?
Well, and built to survive the apocalypse too.
Yeah, right. Well, that was the thing. It was a guy that I knew worked at the music store. He had traded it in, and I thought, like, I've always known them for just utility pedal, like DIs, splitters, but I've never thought of radial for tone. And I thought, well, they do everything else quite well. Let's give it a shot.
Yeah, no, they do. I mean, I think a lot of people do overlook them for that stuff. They usually are known, obviously, for the utility stuff, but they make really good stuff. I mean, we end up, every time we have any of their pedals, we end up, usually moving along pretty well. They actually do really great, reamping things too for acoustics. We end up, moving those quite often too. But yeah, Radials, I don't know, they're a really good company. It's funny, Dastardly Dave's in there. I think he's been waiting on that. Order's been weird because like I placed that and like I swear it must have gotten sent back because we've asked them where it's at, and they've kind of been a little like, I don't know, not really saying they don't know, but they keep saying they're waiting for an update themselves. So I feel like it got sent back, but we'll see. Because we've had some things that still get sent over to the old shop, and they're currently over there. People like the guys that own it are now renovating that space. So it's not, it's been kind of a weird thing with Radial lately. But
sure.
Dave
brings up a good place. The new Ross phaser is awesome. Yep. Those Ross pedals are pretty good.
I
And a
was
decent price point.
Yeah. I was going to say, I was very surprised by the, because I think out of all the classic Ross stuff, I'd only ever tried the compressor, the distortion, and the chorus. I don't think I'd ever gotten to try one of the original phasers. So
Right.
that one I was very pleasantly surprised with like how, I don't know, how versatile it was. And actually the vibe on it, even though it's not like technically speaking like a great univibe, it's a really good sounding sound though. I mean, it's like regardless, a good sound. So
exactly. I agree. And the price point, because I swear like $179 US is the pre-pandemic $149 price point.
basically, yeah, I mean, after everything, because I mean, everybody's gone up, even, Walrus, I think middle of this month, everything that they've had for almost a decade at $200 has gone up a little bit. So
yeah, it's hard to find like high end, made in North America for under 200.
Yeah, it's getting to be that way for sure, which is unfortunate, but at the same time, I mean, it's kind of one of those things that hopefully enough people will still do it just to kind of support all those companies. Because I mean, a lot of those people, most of the people that run those companies now are just like everybody else. Like they're just gear nerds like the rest of us. So.
What's up, Mickey Sotomayor? See ya.
Looked like BC Rich was talking about Snouse. So yeah, Snouse actually he comes in the shop every once in a while. But yeah, he's out of Denver. He does a lot of the basically I think it's just a blues breaker, but it's kind of his black box.
Mm-hmm.
And that one's interesting. He actually has an incredible collection of vintage pedals. But yeah, I was gonna say that main pedal that he does, the black box. I think Ike actually has like the current version of it. And if you're into the blues breaker circuit, that one is actually a really, really good one.
Yeah, House of Twang mentioned he got a black box recently and is digging it.
Yeah. I mean, that one's, it's hard to argue with. Like I said, that guy has a really good ear for tone. And like when Eric and I did so at True Brewing, we did like a pedal kind of meet and greet thing. I think it was back in April. But he was there for that, and it was pretty good. But it was kind of fun to finally talk to him a little bit more because most of the time it was always just kind of in passing, or like when he came to drop off the pedal for Ike, it was just kind of an in passing thing. But definitely, he has a really good ear. So,
wow, Jim Cox saying 24 to 48 month wait list on the Snouse BBO D2.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. Like I said, I mean, it's as far as I know, he's still just doing all that by himself. So, and I think he still works like a normal full time job too. So, it's kind of rough doing that stuff and then having a backlog of 2 years of back orders. But we actually have a lot of guys in town that are getting that way, like Mike from Foul Sounds and even Chuck. So like Chuck and Mike are basically gonna kind of combine forces because they've both been having a hard time kind of keeping up with the demand. So we have a few guys in town that are all going to start kind of combining forces. I think the idea is too that at some point they'll be doing that so that they can also kind of hopefully up their purchasing power when it comes to parts.
Sure. Makes sense.
Yeah, because Morley surprisingly is trying to kind of help them get situated with like the parts acquisition part of it. So.
Sure. We're going to go a few more minutes here, folks. It's been awesome. You've had some great questions and comments coming through so far, I will say, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. Dan Energy says, I'll be waiting over 5 years for my King of Tone. Almost there.
Jesus. Yeah. That's wow. Yeah, I remember, it was probably about 5 years ago when the wait list was only 2 years.
Right. Yeah, I have had a couple opportunities to buy a King of Tone, but with what they're going for on the user, it's like I'm not spending like $600 US on a pedal that I haven't tried in advance.
Well, and to be like 100% honest, because I feel like that's one of those ones that like, I don't know, we get a lot of customers or a lot of people that do expect Ike and I to really like that one for some reason. I don't know. Nobody in the shop gets that one. Like none of us, and we all have very different tastes.
Right.
None of us really bond with that pedal. It's like it is really good, but like there's so many other things that are very comparable that like it's just one of those things that like I just don't know if it's really worth, you know. I mean the wait time, the money, like all of it together. Like I feel like it's kind of that one's a little bit of a mystery to me, I guess, if I'm honest. But
Michael Crow says, I feel like I should get on the King of Tone list just because. Why not?
Man, no, I mean, yeah, you got years to change your mind. So,
right.
I don't know. Like I said, they're just one of those ones because like we've had a lot of customers that bring them by like whenever they finally kind of acquire one, and like they're not bad. They're like I said, I'm not saying they're bad or anything. They're not. You know, I guess I don't know. I guess I would maybe expect something else if I waited that long. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, they expected immediately. Oh, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah, because I mean, there's some things that like I have waited that long in terms of waiting for something to come through the shop, and when it finally did, it was, you know, it was what I wanted it to be. But then there's been probably 75% of the things that I thought would be something and didn't really end up working out. So you just never know until you get it. And who knows too, because like a lot of us, you know, especially, I don't know, you're probably this way too at this point. I feel like the further you get with pedals, especially with overdrives in particular, the more you start looking for the ones that are drastically different, not the ones that are just a little different.
Exactly. Yep, that's very true. And does it play well with others? Because I find, I'm stacking 3 or 4 at once.
Yeah, exactly. That's my favorite thing. Like people that come in sometimes that want like one pedal to just be like their be all end all overdrive. And I'm like, but yeah, you're missing out on all the fun of like mixing them, because it's like when you mix certain drives in different orders and they hit each other in a different way, it's like you get stuff that you just would never expect. And to me, that's by far the most fun. But
yeah, it's like building a good deli sandwich. It's all about layers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially with overdrives, because it's like there's you know, that's by far the biggest share of the market when it comes to pedals. So it's like there are, you know, infinite different textures out there for overdrive, and so that's why like it always perplexes me when everybody does, because like, you know, when there were only a few options, it made sense that certain people of a certain style would gravitate towards certain ones. But like now you can have every different version of anything at this point. So I think most of the fun is like finding that oddball one that actually works for you rather than the one that everybody else might be using. But
exactly. My knees hurt. It's like stacking pedals is way too many options. Way. I need 3 knobs, 1 button. Well, that's you, knees.
I get that too. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things
too. I'd like to have 3 or 4 overdrives on my board because like we were talking off air, different pickups and different guitars.
Oh yeah.
If I put in a guitar with hot pickups, I'm eliminating a couple of gain stages right off the bat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes too, like I said, even for me, like when I first started exploring single coils, you know, there were certain pedals that I'd only ever heard a certain way for years. So then finally hearing it with single coils more often, like you start hearing nuances out of the pedal that you weren't really hearing before. And especially single coils, because I mean, those, you know, especially, you know, if it's a weak single coil, you know, there's a lot of time, because most of the stuff with humbuckers, I don't feel like I ever really dime anything with humbuckers most of the time. In terms of the gain itself, like even like my Rev G4, I mean, I'm at like 9 o'clock on the gain on that. But when it comes to like single coils, like I think part of the fun is literally just diming everything and then letting the guitar kind of dictate how much you're hitting it.
Sis is out of here. See you, sis. Hope you're feeling better soon. Yeah, we'll probably wrap things up here ourselves, which, again, great crowd tonight. Great hang. Great questions. Everyone should check out Flipside Music's channel. Thursdays, 4 p.m. Mountain Time with live What the FAQs. I'm usually there. If I'm home, I'm there.
That's the way it works. No, we always appreciate it when you turn out.
I'm usually eating dinner while watching because it's 6 p.m. here. I'm like, oh, all right, perfect.
Yeah, it works out. Yeah, usually when I end up catching your stuff, it's usually on my way home. So sometimes I can comment, sometimes I can't. But
sure, I get it. Totally get it. All right. Well, thanks everybody that tuned in tonight. And just hold the line, Dylan. And as always, folks, hold those doors open. Let Mark Taft in head in traffic because he shouldn't be driving. So if he is, he needs to be somewhere. So be good to each other. Happy tone chasing. And of course, just don't litter. Just don't.
Yeah.